Okay, what I'm going to try and run through with you now is a couple of pointers regarding the basics of Betfair. Now, I imagine some of you are quite advanced with Betfair, some of you are probably intermediate, but I also imagine there's quite a large number of people who are completely new to their site. And so I've got to run through a couple of basic pointers with you regarding how Betfair works and how you can open and close particular bets. Now, the first thing I would say is that Betfair do actually provide a very good help section via their site. If you just see where I'm highlighting the pointer now, if you just click there, it'll bring up a very helpful load of information basically about how you can place bets on the site. And it's really simple stuff, but if you really are new to Betfair, I know it can be quite intimidating to start. If you just click on the help section, then that'll bring up quite a lot of stuff. As you can see, it's got a glossary and various other things that you can have a read through. Okay, so this is the Betfair interface. Obviously you need to sign up and set up an account first things first, but once you've done that, what you'll need to do is go to the left hand menu and click on Horse Racing Today's Card, and that's what we're concerned with. Now, it's quite late in the day, so you can see all these races here have already run. It's actually about 3:30. So the race I've got up is the next one, the 3:40. Now if you look on the interface, you'll see two columns. Firstly, one's the back column in blue on the left, and one's the lay column in pink on the right. Now if we wanted to back, for example, this particular horse here, Barton Bell, at odds of 3.25, we've got two options. The first of which is we can back it 3.25, which is what the market's offering. The second of which, though, is if we felt that we wanted to be a little greedy with prices and we didn't think that 3.25 was a fair price, we could try increasing the amount we wanted to, say, 3.4. And what would happen then is basically our £100, as you can see we've put a stake of £100 in, our £100 would appear here on the right hand side in the lay column. So you'd see that 272 increase to 372. Now the reason it appears in the lay column is that if we place a back bet, for it to be matched, we want someone else to come along and lay it. So in other words, we're requesting another layer to come along, which is why it'll appear in the right column. Likewise, if we wanted to lay the horse, we could either lay it at odds of 3.3, or obviously we're going to want to lay a horse at low odds as possible. We could be a bit greedy and request layouts of say 3.2. And sometimes we'll get matched, sometimes we won't, but it is worth trying a lot of the time. And I normally spend a couple of minutes just trying to get the best prices on a particular race. Now if I click on the horse's name, the particular favourite here, Barton Bell, it'll bring up an information box which I'll just run through with you now. Okay, the first thing you'll see on the information box is the price over time. And basically this is the odds that you can trade this particular horse at since the opening of the market basically. So you can see it opened at about somewhere in this region, a pretty big spread of about 3.3 to 5.0, and then it gradually calmed down and it's been slowly, very slowly falling. And it's really quite stable now, so it's not the kind of horse that we'd want to open a trade on, because you can't really see which direction it's going to go into. In fact, chances are it won't go into any direction, it'll just hang around that point of 3.15, which is the last price that's been matched. Now if you look to your top left, the second thing you can see is the total matched on this event. Now basically what that figure refers to, the 47,711, is the total amount of money that has been matched on the 340 at Weatherby. In other words, all the horses that have been bet on, add all the figures up and you come to 47,000 and odd. Okay, I'll skip the reduction factor because it's not hugely important for the system. Betting summary volume, that's the amount of money of that 47,000 that has been traded on this one particular horse. As you see here, the favourite, the vast majority of the money, about 2/3 has been traded on this one horse, which is the kind of thing we're looking at. If you go to say another horse, Ruby Joy, you'll see that there's been almost no money traded on that particular horse. Now if you're wondering why the total money matched has just almost gone up by a huge amount, I'm not sure if it went up by about 20,000 or 30,000, but it went up massively. But the reason for that is because we're nearing the off, so you can see that it's literally going up by 5 grand every few seconds. And the reason for that is because all the betting activity happens in the last 10 minutes, and which is one of the reasons why I suggest that you tend to close your trades before the off, because prices can just suddenly go up or they can go down. And if you've never experienced BetFair before, it can be quite intimidating. Okay, on the right hand side you'll see the back and lay columns. Now whereas with the usual BetFair interface all you'll end up with is 3 buttons on either side, so you'll just have a limited snapshot of what's available to back or to lay. If you click on the information box you can see all the figures that are available to back and to lay. As you can see here, we've got about £73 at 3.30 and £1,400 before it, and then £458 before that. So that's what we'd see from the actual BetFair interface itself, but if we click on the information box you can also see that there's £600, £300, £300, £500, all there sitting there waiting to be matched. Whereas on this side we've got fairly small amounts on this side, on the lay side, and almost nothing from that point onwards. So it's just useful to know things like that, and you can get a better view of the backing and laying columns by clicking on the information box, which is basically you can bring that up by just clicking on the horse's name in question. Okay, now if you look to the top, just above the back and lay columns, you'll see 2 figures. One's 103.2 and one's 99.1. Now what these 2 figures refer to is basically the overround, and this figure should always be over 100% and this figure should always be less than 100%, and if that's the case then it means that we've got an overround book. If it's less than 100% on this side or more than 100% on that side, then what it means is potentially you could either back all of the selections on this side or lay all of the selections on this side and get a guaranteed profit. In other words, an arbitrage opportunity. Now you won't see too many of those, and the ones that you do see will be picked off by specialized software, so I wouldn't bother looking for them, but it's just good to be aware of if you do decide to go into that direction at some point in the future. Now the smaller that this figure gets, the closer it gets to 100, and the closer this one gets to 100, the more competitive a particular field is. So you see that we're literally now a few minutes from going to the off, so this figure should start to fall, which as you can see it has done. It's now at 101.3, which is a very tight book, whereas if we go to say the 4:30 at Wolverhampton, which is quite a way away, you'll see the book's a bit larger there, not hugely larger. And if you want to see an example of a massively large book, then log on to the markets at about 10 o'clock at night or something like that, a couple of hours after the markets have opened, and you'll see figures of 120% on one side and 85% on the other side and that kind of thing. Okay, so that's the overround and what it means and what these 2 figures mean at the top. The other thing that I want to mention is when you're opening a position, what you can do is if you click on settings you should see a box that says show a separate future position. If you tick that and click save, what it'll do is it'll show you how much you stand to win or lose if you were to open a particular trade. So in other words, if we put in 100 here, if we were to back this horse at 3.3 for £100, if it won we'd make £230. If any of the other horses did win the race though and ours lost, we'd lose our £100. So you see that can be quite helpful. And you can also click on the box to show profit and loss figures net of commission, which is a quite useful function as well. Okay, so that's the basics of BetFair so far that I've covered. One other thing that I do want to cover is liquidity. And basically liquidity refers to the amount of money that's available in a particular market. So you see, if you scroll down here, we've got pretty large figures. So if we were to open a trade at say £200, either backing or laying the particular horse, we wouldn't have any kind of problem closing it. If however we're to do the same in a market where there's very little money, then it's going to cause us problems, and we might not be able to basically close our trades. Now if you're focusing on short price favourites, that probably won't be a problem, but it is something to be aware of. You do need a fair amount of liquidity in a particular race before you open a trade. The other thing about liquidity is it makes for a much smoother graph. As you can see, since there's more money entered the market, we've got a very stable graph, and it really hasn't fluctuated as much as it did to start with. When it started there wasn't much money in the market, and so the price will get pushed up or down by people putting in large or small amounts, whereas now it's going to take a lot more to move the market, as you can see from the very smooth contoured graph. Okay, so I've covered most of the basics anyway, and that should give you a rough idea of how BetFair works. If there's anything that I've missed out, then either refer back to the guide, the Easy Trader guide, and that should run through a lot of the other stuff with you, or failing that, just click onto the help section that Betfair provide and run through with that.